Hello and welcome to the Docking Bay 77 podcast YouTube channel. I am one of the hosts, Dayton Johnson. Well, it's another top 7 video from one of our hosts, me. If you have not been to the channel before, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. Quickly, we like to do top 7s. Each one of our hosts picks their own topic and drops a quick top 7. Usually it's anything personal. Sometimes it's something about coffee. Sometimes it's coffee mugs, trips, album covers, songs from Queen that are in soundtracks. So we have a nice variety, even so much as, favorite meats to grill during the summer. So a lot of stuff for those to go back and take a look at. We also do versus episodes where we compare an original song to a cover version as well. So plenty of that, as well as our regular audio stream, is available on YouTube. Now, on to what I'm going to discuss tonight. So with all the videos from Rush's first night on their latest tour coming across my social media, I decided it was time for me to finish my top 7 list of Rush albums. So I have 2 playlists of all the Rush albums on my Spotify, and I go all the way up through Moving Pictures, and then I have the second one is the rest of their discography. So in preparing for this list, I knew what my number one was going to be. It's been my favorite album of theirs for 40 years almost. So that was not even a choice. As I was actually whittling it down, it was actually kind of difficult. I had some that were very close, and it came down to, how many more songs do I like on this album versus this album. So I was surprised. I did notice that there's some clusters. I'm a big fan of a big chunk of the 80s music. So that wasn't on purpose. But anyway, I do feel that Rush has never put out a bad album. There are obviously ones I like a lot more than others. Vapor Trails and Snakes and Arrows I have, and I've listened to. I just haven't listened to enough, and they just obviously did not make my list for that reason alone. But it was interesting going through, and then once I figured out the other 6, putting them in order was kind of a challenge. So as I mentioned each album, I also call out a few of my favorite tracks as well, standout tracks, and the importance as to why they're on my list. So starting with my number 7 and working my way up, we have Power Windows. Now this one's kind of important because there was that short time after Moving Pictures where Rush decided to push the envelope using a lot of keyboards and synthesizers. And that's fine. Another phase of their career, they, were one of those bands that was able to evolve as they went, and they were trying some new things out. This album is important because I kind of feel like they'd kind of figured out where they were going. And for me, it kind of kicked off a series of really good albums during the late 80s. On here, songs that stand out for me are Manhattan Project, love that song. Marathon, which I keep noticing that I like songs that are about marathon runners. Never been one, and never will happen at this point in my life. But kind of teasing an upcoming episode where we look at Iron Maiden Somewhere in Time, just saying. And Mystic Rhythms, what a great song. Sounds like nothing else on the album. Sounds great live too. And it was an experimental song, but and they nailed it. So for me, this is of the albums that kind of came after, like with Signals and Grace Under Fire, Grace Under Pressure. This one is the one actually I prefer of those 3. So that's why it's on my list. Now, my number 6, this is on here. Not only is it a great album, because it really is, and but it was their final album. It was a great swan song album. And of course, I'm talking about Clockwork Angels. Now, not only is it a great album, I mean, you have over an hour of music. This was actually the last time I got to see them on tour. So thank you, John Wright, for going with me. That was a great show. Remember those guys that were next to us? They just, the more they drank, the happier and friendlier they got. But anyway, this one, not only is it a great album, but it also spawned a good series of books as well. Standout tracks for me, Caravan, love, what a great way to open the album. And that's something that Rush has always been very good about, is having great album openers, and this is no exception. But title track, of course, is great. And 7 Cities of Gold is also another one that stands out. I look forward to when I'm listening to it. But overall, solid album. There are some peaks and valleys, but very few bands get a chance to do a really good swan song album. The final studio album before somebody officially leaves and they never do another one, or somebody passes away, like unfortunately with Neil. But yeah, great album, and it's one of those that we're happy we got one really, really good album before they ended their studio recordings. So moving on to my number 5. This one is on here mostly. It's not that it's not a good album, because it really is. There's some great songs on there, but it was one of those that when I bought the cassette, I listened to it a lot. Like, I remember we were on a family vacation on the West Coast, and that thing was in my Walkman more than any other cassette I was listening to at the time. And it's a simple cover, but has some really important songs on it. And of course, I'm talking about Hold Your Fire from 1987. This one, it's just one of those albums I kind of feel that they were, they had a story to tell, or they were finding their way through, the whole synthesizer thing, the whole, they were journeying through and trying to continue what they started. And there's just some great songs there, some standout songs. Of course, Time Stands Still is one of those songs that just gets better the older I get. It has way more meaning now than it did when it first came out. And of course, hearing the Army's version of it after Neil's passing it brings you to tears. A great album. I love Mission is another one that stands out for me quite a bit. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's just a beautiful song. Getty sounds great on it. The vocals are awesome. And Force 10, once again, another great opener, and it really does a good job setting the tone for the rest of the album. So it's just, I don't know. I just have such a fond memory of it. It's one of the last times I took a great family vacation to the West Coast, and that was kind of my soundtrack for that trip. So I think that's probably why it's on here more than anything else, but solid album as well. So as I mentioned before, there's a lot of great albums towards the end of their 80s, and here's another one. This one is Presto from 1989, senior year of high school. I actually, fortunately and then unfortunately, had tickets to go see this show, and I woke up that morning with the flu, and I was puking, so I unfortunately missed it. But a couple years later, for the Roll the Bones tour, a good friend Tim Brown, we went to go see that show. It was fantastic. So this one was showing some growth towards, maybe getting a little heavier, but really this one stands out for a lot of songwriting, mostly the lyrics, but it also has some great songs to sing along to. Warpaint, one of those songs that has that chant almost at the end. Love that. It stands out for me for that reason. The Pass, beautiful song. Hand Over Fist, man, I just can't stop singing along to that song. So that's just a great, of course, has a hook to me lyrically, and I love it. Red Tide, environmental song, very important still to this day. Unfortunately, it's kind of got more important recently, but whatever. Moving on. Show Don't Tell. Once again, another great album opener. Like I said before, they're really, really good at doing that. But such a fun album. Love the cover. And it's one of those that makes me think of high school, makes me think of my last year in high school, my first year in college. So partially that's why it's on the list as well. But just a really good album showing that they were able to continue evolving and writing good music, even though they'd been around at that point, almost 20 years. So anyway, moving on to my next one. All right. So this one, Permanent Waves. We discussed this one last year. Friend of the show and listener, Brad Moore, picked it for us to discuss, and we did a full episode on it. So go back and check that out for a deep dive into that one. This one is on my list because two songs in particular of their importance. Spirit of Radio, which is another great album opener, but just so good and so important. And actually, we did a top 7 rock anthems, and that was on. I did all Rush songs, and that was one of them that was on there. So I know, go check that out for more. Free Will, important song and fantastic song. I remember when I was in college, I called the local radio station, classic rock radio station, requested Free Will, and actually got to hear myself on the radio requesting the song. Love it. This one is an important song or important album because you can kind of tell that they were figuring things out. They had a great half of an album with 2112. That side one is just amazing. Caress of Steel, much maligned, good, but not commercially successful. And so they were trying to find their way. And this one in particular, I think they were like, okay, we think we figured things out. Natural Science, I love long songs, and this one nails it for me. A lot of different things going on in that one. This is an important album because you can tell they were figuring out a lot of stuff, which, led to the album after that, which is important, which is coming up soon. But great album and a very important album, which is why it's so high on the list. Now, my number 2, some people would argue that it doesn't need to be this high, but personally, I think it's a very important album, and it has a great cover too. Fly By Night, the first album, of course, with Neil, and you can tell there was a shift, an automatic and immediate shift when it came to this album versus the debut. Debut isn't bad. Like I said before, I don't think they've ever made a bad album. But for me, you can tell, you can instantly hear Neil's influence in the songwriting, and lyrically and musically. You can tell that they're going to try different things because they had the ability to do that with Neil joining. And obviously, Anthem, great song, title track, awesome, and just By Tour and the Snow Dog, another epic song, great songwriting, and you can see where the band was going with this. You can see that they were going to get experimental. You can hear the prog rock coming in full force. And like I said, an awesome album cover. I even have the, underneath my keyboard in my computer here, I have the computer desk cover featuring this album. Got it off the Rush website. A lot of people would argue that it doesn't deserve to be this high, but I think it's an important album. And not only is it, songwriting got better, and it's clean, the production is clean, but there's still a little bit of, rough around the edges because they were still learning to work together as a band. But so good, such a fun and important album. So yeah, Fly By Night, my number 2. Now, my number 1, we've actually done an episode as well. We've done 4 episodes. We've done Permanent Waves, like I mentioned, 2112 we did, and we did Counterparts, and coming soon we have A Farewell to Kings. And also my number 1 album from Rush is Moving Pictures. So, perfect album. So people ask, name a perfect album. It's Moving Pictures. And as awesome as Tom Sawyer is, and Red Barchetta and YYZ, for me, the songs that I really truly love on this one, Limelight, a very important song, especially a very personal song for Neil, especially. Camera Eye, just what a great song. If you haven't noticed, I like long songs, and longest song on the album, Camera Eye, just very important, very clever, beautiful songwriting, very mood driven as well. I love that. And probably one of the most important songs on the album, lyrically, was Witch Hunt. I was very much aware and alive, and part of the Satanic Panic. I was listening a lot to those bands that were accused of convincing kids to kill themselves, like the whole thing when Ozzy got sued and Judas Priest got sued, and I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and of course everybody was freaking out about that. So, and unfortunately, we seem to not learn from things like this, which is why that song is so important. Witch Hunt has as much meaning today as it did when Neil wrote it then. And as much as people kind of, give the last track a hard time, Vital Signs, I love that song. It's not fair, and that people kind of beat on it. A lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't sound like the rest of the album. It doesn't really fit. And I said, no, well, it's kind of why I like it. But Moving Pictures, love the album. So much so that when they released the anniversary, the 40th anniversary edition, as you can see right here, this giant collection of fabulous stuff. There's all kinds of fun things in here, including a little Red Barchetta, live albums, CDs, books, a drumstick signed by Neil, picks and things like that. So it's a fantastic collection. And as soon as I was able to order it from the Rush website, I certainly did. And love to have it as part of my collection. But yeah, moving pictures has always been my favorite and will continue to be my favorite Rush album of all time. And yeah, so thoughts, opinions, and comments are welcome down below. Did I get some of the same ones you would have on your list? What would your list look like? Would you have more of their modern stuff, some more older stuff? And let me know. As every YouTuber likes to say, of course, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell so you are notified every time we do a new video. Comment and share it with people because we like to get seen by more people. So yeah, there you go. We have a new video every Friday. Make sure you check that out. Our regular stream can also be found on here, as well as every podcast platform. Find your favorite and we'll be found on there. And look forward to a new video every Friday. And thanks for spending time with me. And as always, thank you very much for watching.